Choose another version of the story. Today, I wanted to, first of all, share with you an amazing experience I just had this morning of this exact topic. I actually had another example I wanted to share with you, but then this happened. So I want to share with you this amazing story of what happens when you change the version of the story and how that gets reflected back in reality, and just how easy it is to change the story. We get so caught up with facts, and facts cannot help you change the story, but imagination can. So that's what we're doing today. My name is Hedley, and if you are here, you are in the right place. If you'd like to know more about me or my offerings, including Law of Assumption coaching, my self-concept course, I Am the One, and my book, I Am Money, you will find all of those details in the box below this video or at my website, youaretheone.com.au. But for now, I was about to say, let's get into it. But if you could just subscribe to my channel first, and then we will get into it. Thank you so much. Choose a new version of the story. I am so excited about this video because of what just happened earlier today, which completely demonstrates just how powerful it is when you choose another version of the story. We get so caught up with the facts, and I know facts are important, yes, but they are not the end of the story. The facts are the beginning of the awakening to just how powerful you are and your capacity to completely rewrite reality by rewriting the story first. And to rewrite the story means choosing another adventure, choosing another option, choosing another outcome, selecting another possibility to this story. Life, this reality, this third dimensional experience that we're all having really is a choose your own adventure. And the story that you've already experienced isn't fixed. The situation that you've already experienced isn't fixed. So if the facts are unfavorable, you get to reenact the story, but you have to do it in consciousness first before that can be reflected back in reality. Now, we have no control over how our reenactment of a story gets reflected back, but I can tell you, based on the story I'm about to share with you as to what happened this morning, it's going to blow your mind. It's going to surprise you. It's going to just leave you in a state of awe like it did with me just a few hours ago. So I'll share the story, and then I want to get into some practical things that you can do in order to change the version of the story that you may currently be telling and experiencing in your reality, because I can assure you whatever story you're experiencing is not fixed. Whatever facts you're experiencing are just the beginning of the potential that is available to you. You are the producer, the director, the writer, the actor in your movie. You get to reenact something if it's not to your liking. So the experience that I had today, I was actually going to share another example based on my recent trip to Sydney. I was just there for a couple of weeks, but this one just took the cake. So I haven't seen my cousin in a couple of months because I've been away and he's been busy. So we arranged to meet earlier today, and I said, let's just meet down at the Oval, bring your soccer ball, I'll bring Dora, we'll just have a kick around and have a catch up. It was a beautiful day here today. Now, my cousin, he can get into the habit of telling some old stories. I have shared Law of Assumption with him. He's definitely open to it, not necessarily practicing it. I find that I'm doing a lot of rewriting for him, and that's fine. I love doing that for other people. So he was just sharing with me a few things that had gone on since I saw him, and he says, oh, I've got to tell you this story of what happened. So he starts telling me this story that I've already heard. He's already told me this story in detail, and it's not a favorable story. So just to give you some context, the story is he was in his car, he was parked, he was just having something to eat. Another car came in and parked the car next to him. There was a couple in it. They had a fight. It all blew up. She got out and walked off, and he kind of drove off. But as he drove off, he hit my cousin's car and damaged the car. And then they got out and kind of had a difficult conversation, and it didn't really, didn't go well. It's obviously not a pleasant situation. So he's telling me this story again. He's told it to me before. And halfway through, I'm like, you know what? You've told me this story. I know this story. And I said to him, do me a favor. Do us both a favor and pick a better version. And he's like, what do you mean? I go, just tell me a better version of this story. You've already told me this one. It's not a great story because it's not a great situation. It's a shitty story. Tell me a better version of it. And it took him a little while because he was stuck on the facts of what happened. Well, this is the story because this is what happened. I said, I know that. Just give me a better version of it. Like, imagine if this story had gone differently, a better version of it. So he kind of got into it, and then he's telling me a different version of the story where, I mean, in my mind, I'm thinking, just tell me the story of where this didn't happen, but that can be a bit of a jump. So he improved the story by sharing that the person had come in, the same thing had happened, but this time when the guy hit his car, he got out and they had a really good exchange. Like, it was a really lovely exchange, and it reinstilled his faith in humanity, and they just, had a really nice conversation, right? And I was like, great, this is such an improvement on the last story. This is awesome. And how does it feel? And he's like, yeah, it feels better. So we just did that, and then we kept kicking the ball, and then we went for a walk, and then this dog came out of nowhere, and the dog's being really annoying and kind of stealing the ball from Dora. And I was like, where is the owner? Because there's no one around. And I looked around, and there was a birthday party off in the distance, and I was like, oh, well, the dog must belong to somebody at the birthday party. So the dog disappears, and we had another couple of walks around, and then my cousin says, do you want to go over and maybe grab something to eat at the cafe? So we did that, and as we were walking towards the cafe, we passed by this birthday party, and I see the dog hovering around this person who I thought must be the owner, and that person came over to my cousin. I could see they kind of knew each other, so I kind of kept walking. And then I stopped and turned around, and I couldn't quite understand the dynamic because it didn't seem like they were friends, but they seemed to know each other. And then I was like, wait, hang on a second. And it took my brain a little bit to compute because it just was so like, wait, what? My cousin was having the conversation that he had just envisioned in the new story with this guy who I realized was the guy who had hit his car a couple of months earlier. And I'm watching this conversation unfold. My brain's just like going, what is happening? And then, they're fist bumping and they're like all buddy. And I'm like, wait, what? And then my cousin comes over as the conversation finishes. He's looking at me and he's like, yeah. Law of assumption. I'm like, yes, law of assumption. Do you understand what just happened? You just experienced the reenactment of that new version of your story that you told half an hour earlier. In time, here and now, you're having that conversation. I was blown away. I mean, this is the thing. This happens on a regular basis, as I'm sure it happens to you on a regular basis. And yet every time it happens, it's like it's the first time all over again. I'm just like, oh my God, that's amazing. And he actually said, I heard him say some of the same things that he had said to me as we were playing it out. So that's what happens when you choose a new version of the story. When you choose to reimagine the story and reenact the story, reality must reorganize itself to reflect it back, because reality is just the reflection of what you are doing in consciousness. Because if you've seen any of my videos before, or you've read Neville, or if you've done this work for a while, you will know consciousness is the one and only reality, and reality is the reflection of consciousness. And if you are new to these teachings, allow me to say that again, because this is a foundational principle of this work. Consciousness is the one and only reality. And reality that we experience with our five senses in this third dimensional world is the reflection of consciousness. And as you may have also heard me say before, Jude Currivan, who is a PhD and the author of this book, Cosmic Hologram, Information at the Center of Creation, she says in this book, she's a scientist and it's backed up by science. Hang on, where's the computer gone? She says, there is literally no environment other than the consciousness of the observer. So your consciousness is what is being pushed out and reflected back in this wonderful, very real cosmic hologram. And when I say real, I mean we experience it as real, but it's not fixed. So let's talk about the practicalities of some of this. When you're experiencing a situation in reality, it is very easy to get fixated on the facts of that situation. Now, it is also important to acknowledge the current facts of reality. If you're experiencing something or you have experienced something, it's important to acknowledge that reality. And it's also important to feel the feelings associated with those experiences. However, what tends to happen is we can then become fixated on those stories and we tell them over and over and over again. Now, what starts off as acknowledgement of the story then becomes affirmation of the story. Every time you repeat a story, you are affirming it. Now, a lot of these stories that we're telling are not stories that you really want to be affirming, or you certainly don't want to be experiencing in reality again. But if you continue to tell the same story, you are going to get that story reflected back in similar situations in your reality, because reality is the reflection of something like itself. That's the literal definition of reality. It is reflecting back something that is like itself. What is it like? It's like the story that you're telling in consciousness, because consciousness is the one and only reality, and reality is just the sensory expression of that consciousness. Now, it's also important that when you're choosing another version of the story, to do it progressively. So in this situation, what my cousin did was he took the situation where the conversation didn't go well and he revised it. He chose the version of that story so that that conversation did go well. And then, of course, he had that conversation half an hour after reimagining it. I mean, wow. And then that situation, you know, it all played out and it's reorganizing itself to be a positive situation. And my cousin was saying, wow, I really like that guy. He's a great guy. That situation got improved in that conversation, and that conversation is a result of him reimagining it. Remember, you got to release yourself from the facts of the story. It's important to acknowledge the facts of the story, but if the facts are unfavorable, do not continue affirming them. Don't go and be telling every single person that you meet, oh my God, listen what happened to me. It doesn't serve anyone, especially if you keep repeating the same stories. It certainly doesn't serve you, and it certainly doesn't serve the person who's hearing it for the 10th time. So pick a situation or a story that you are currently experiencing and just look for another version of that story. Now, yes, this may require you taking some time and sitting down and working this out. And if you have to, write down like a brief paragraph of the current story, and then just look at that current version and go, how could I make this better? And then write that better version out. And then maybe look at that better version and go, can I make this version better? And then maybe write that version out. Or do it differently. Grab a friend who's into this. It doesn't have to be somebody who's into law of assumption, just somebody that you trust and that you know has got your back and wants the best for you, and say, hey, I just want to reenact this story. Could you play this person and let me replay this conversation or reenact this situation again? Like, have a play with it and look for the better version of the story that you are currently telling. We have to be choosing the new versions of the story. Otherwise, we're just going to keep getting the same ones pushed out and reflected back. Different people, but same story, and it gets boring after a while, doesn't it? So have a go with choosing a new version of the stories, and please stop telling the old stories, especially if they're unfavorable. Tell them once, maybe twice, but then ask yourself, if I'm going to tell this story again, can I tell a better version of it? And then if you tell that story again, can I tell an even better version on the better version? And then just keep improving the story until you feel so good that you're just telling an amazing story and you just feel so good. And of course, the people who are with you feel good and everyone feels good. And then of course, your reality is reflecting back that goodness. So report your success stories back as always, and I'm going to link a video up here, which is what happened when I told a new story and then my reality reflected a new story back very quickly. This is before I was practicing law of assumption, so I didn't actually know what I was doing at the time, but law of assumption works whether you know it or not. So become a master storyteller, and a good storyteller is somebody who can tell different versions of the same story. So I'll leave it there. Good luck with that. Check out that video, leave your comment, engage with this video in whatever way feels good to you, and have a wonderful week. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks so much. Bye.